This is ANN News.
I'm Olajumoke Olatunji. 18 members of the Ondo State House of Assembly have moved to Ibadan, your state, citing threats to their lives. 18 of the 26 Ondo Assembly members had voted to impeach Speaker and Deputy of the House on Friday, after which trouble ensued. ANN's this year DMA reports.
Seven of the Assembly members said they were assaulted, beaten up and injured last Friday by members of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW. They believe their sin was to have introduced articles of impeachment of House Speaker Bamidele Oloyelogun and his deputy Ogundeji Roju. Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu had tried to play the role of a peacemaker by calling a meeting to discuss a reversal of the impeachment, but only 7 members who support the impeached leaders showed up. Others said they feared for their lives. The new speaker and his deputy have sent a petition to the Inspector General of Police and to President Muhammadu Buhari asking to be rescued from what they call illegal reign of terror in the state. They also claim that their family members have faced threats since Friday because of the impeachment. New Speaker Olamide George said his predecessor and his deputy were impeached for gross misconduct, financial recklessness, abuse of power, and incompetence. Assembly members claim the impeached speaker had led into the Assembly State Commissioner of Police, State's APC chairman, State chairman of the NURTW, and those he characterized as heavily armed officers and thugs, whom he said unleashed a violent act against Assembly members, staff, journalists, and visitors to the Assembly complex. It is not clear how they intend to run the Assembly while they are exiled in Oyo State. Ondo State All Progressives Congress has denied any involvement in the mayhem. Lucy Adeyemi, ANN News.
Thanks, Lucy. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party is charging the security agents of intimidation against its presidential flag bearer, Atiku Abubakar. The party says there was an unusual and violent search of Atiku's airplane and documents on his return from Dubai over the weekend. While Atiku was away, the ruling All Progressives Congress had called on security agencies to probe him on his trip to Dubai. A spokesperson for the Atiku campaign organization said the former vice president was not too bothered about the search. He said Atiku believed they were doing their job, but that the search was tilting towards intimidation. There are newspaper reports that Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha has put on hold appointments of new judges in the state. One report says the governor has written to the chairman of the State Judicial Service Commission that those appointments would be paused until further notice. It is reported that the governor had earlier granted approval for appointment of new judges. He changed his mind, citing lack of funds for such appointments. There had been a list of candidates that had been screened and recommendations made to the National Judicial Council for those to be appointed judges. Those candidates are said to have been vetted by the Department of State Security. The candidates will now have to wait until the coast is cleared for their appointment. Although APC National Chairman Adams Oshiomhole faces many detractors, there are 2 groups that have emerged to resist the alleged attempt to remove him from his post. Good Governance Initiative and Ondo Youth Vanguard have condemned recent conventional and social media attacks on Oshiomhole. The 2 groups said in a joint statement that Oshiomhole's election as national chairman had invigorated the party. The 2 groups said Oshiomhole has helped to energize the political system and that he has conducted the affairs of the party with distinction. Meanwhile, a statement by the national coordinator of Ondo Youth Vanguard, Comrade Shagun Jasper, said using the DSS to harass Oshiomhole would be a futile effort. He threatened that the group would mobilize 20,000 members to Abuja to protest what he calls the humiliation of Oshiomhole. Lagos has now added to its list of approved revenue collection agencies as the Lagos Building Investment Company is added to the rolls. The company had applied to be absorbed into the state government revenue collection system and was recommended for approval by the state consultant, Alphabet Consulting. LBRC is now statutorily empowered to collect all forms of government revenues like taxes, dues and fines. The bank's managing director, Folashade Folivi, said the bank was ready to meet the expectations of clients of Lagos State government. She also said her bank, which had been recapitalized, is now compliant in communication technology. Now to other news. A 29-year-old man has been arrested in Ugbeli area of Delta State for alleged human trafficking. The Benin City Office of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, said Action Mudiaga had been on the agency's wanted list for evading arrests 2 weeks ago by jumping into a river. Mudiaga is accused of trafficking to Mali for sexual exploitation a 14-year-old primary 5 pupil of Udu Primary School, Uweru. He allegedly accomplished this by handing the girl to his sister, who later allegedly transferred her to a woman in Mali. The agency said the girl was allegedly deceived that she was going to work in a supermarket in Mali. Instead, the girl was said to have been put in the midst of other girls there and was allegedly forced to meet with male customers. The agency said they are on the hunt for other members of the trafficking syndicate. National Pension Commission (PENCOM) says it will begin to investigate workers who make voluntary contribution of 5 million naira and above into their retirement savings account. The Commission says this is part of an effort to discourage the use of pension account for money laundering. It is also part of its new guidelines for voluntary contributions under the Contributory Pension Scheme. The Commission says this action is necessary because of recent high incidence of withdrawals from the voluntary contributions. Those contributions are the ones made over and above the required 18%. The Commission says such withdrawals negates the whole purpose of augmenting pensions at retirement. The Commission says it wants to strictly adhere to anti-money laundering provisions and payment of relevant taxes. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is not letting loose on its determination to bring to justice former Minister of Petroleum, Dezani Alison Madueke. So it has begun pursuing her extradition to Nigeria from the United Kingdom. A commission spokesperson says the commission is working through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. He said the public will be briefed again in a few weeks on the extent of the process. He said Dezani's extradition process even attempts of an investigation and commencement of trial. Alison Madueke has been investigated in the UK but had requested that the federal government bring her back to Nigeria to face trial. A year ago, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation says bringing her back to Nigeria would jeopardize the investigation being carried out on her by the British government. Last year, a federal high court in Lagos had ordered the final forfeiture to the federal government's 7.5 billion naira alleged Dezani loot. Now to a report card of the state of aircraft used by Nigerian Airlines. Domestic commercial airline operating in Nigeria are reported to have the oldest aircraft fleet in Africa, yes, in all of Africa. One aircraft in one airline is said to be 28 years old. That is the age at which many aircraft are retired and put out of service. More troubling is the reports that some of the aircraft in use in the country may have ever been retired earlier somewhere before finding their way to Nigerian skies. In contrast, the average age of aircraft fleets of other African airlines like Ethiopian Airlines, South African Airlines, Rwanda Air, Royal Air Maroc, and Kenya Airlines is 8 years. Even the average of the fleet in Africa's youngest airline, Rwanda, is 7 years. Rwanda was founded in 2002. In Nigeria, Aricare has the youngest fleet at an average of 11 years. Dana Airlines has the oldest fleet, with one of them 28 years old and another 22 years old, both of them still in use, along with 4 other aircraft in its fleet. Some of the aircraft in Peace Air's fleet of 20 aircraft are 18, 19, 22, 25 and 26 years old. Nigeria's oldest airline, Aero Contractors' fleet of 11 aircraft averages 18 years. In contrast, Addis Ababa-based Ethiopian Airlines, founded in 1945, has a mind-boggling 22 Boeing 787 Dreamliners with average age of 3.4 years, 17 Boeing 777 5.2 years, 26 Boeing 737 at 7.9 years, 9 Airbus 350 at 1.5 years of age and 6 Boeing 767 at 16.3 years old. Many lament the Nigeria Airways could have been a formidable force like Ethiopian or Kenyan Airways if not for mismanagement and theft.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African side.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now we'll go around Africa. Police sources in Somalia say the number of people killed from bomb blasts outside a hotel in Mogadishu has risen to 53, with more than 100 injured. 4 car bombs by Islamic extremists exploded on Friday afternoon, and a 4th blast hit as medics attempted to rescue the injured. A senior police officer said many of the injured suffered horrific wounds, raising fears that death toll could rise further. It says some people are still missing. Militant Islamic group Al-Shabaab linked to Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for the attack. On Saturday, a nurse at Madina Hospital said Mogadishu's hospitals are coping to treat the influx of wounded victims. Democratic Republic of Congo's health ministry has said the latest Ebola outbreak is the most severe in the history of the country. It says the deadly virus has killed at least 198 persons and recorded more than 300 confirmed and probable cases since the disease was declared 4 months ago in the volatile East. Health Minister Dr. Ola Ilunga Kalenga said the figures now exceed the outbreak. He said no other epidemic has been as complex. This is DRC's 10th outbreak since 1976. Health officials are battling community resistance and armed groups' regular attacks, complicating the response and difficulty in containing the deadly Ebola. Kenya's Internal Security Minister has launched an investigation unit to look into allegations of abuses in the force, including corruption and charges that officers routinely kill suspects and perpetrate other human rights abuses. The investigation was launched amid allegations by human rights groups and the public that police killed 22 suspects in the last 2 weeks in a low-income area of Nairobi. Internal Security Cabinet Secretary Fred Fatianga said the unit will put the police on what he called a trajectory of reforms. The new investigation body has been welcomed with optimism by some rights activists, but many remain skeptical on its ability to bring adequate change. Tanzanian President John Magufuli has sacked both agriculture and trade ministers and threatened to deploy the military over a cashew nut crisis. Farmers have been refusing to sell their harvest for weeks, arguing that the private traders' offers are too low. Magufuli accused traders of attempting to rip off thousands of farmers and ordered them to increase their offers. Traders were given a Monday deadline after which President John Magufuli has officially deployed the military to buy and collect all cashew nuts from farmers in the southern region of the country. The government had rejected offers from 13 firms to buy the cash crop. The president says is working to ensure thousands of farmers get a fair price for the cashew nuts and also so that the country does not miss out on vital export earnings. Cashew nut exports are a major foreign currency earner for Tanzania. The 4 remaining persons kidnapped in Cameroon last week have been released. Gunmen had taken more than 80 persons, majority of them students at Bamenda's Presbyterian Secondary School. The government accused separatists in the English-speaking region of being behind the killings. The Anglophone separatists have denied any involvement. Secessionist movements have taken up arms last year to demand independence for the 2 English-speaking regions in the northwest and southwest. French is the most widely spoken official language. Mozambique's President Filipe Nyusi has opened a whopping $785 million Chinese-built bridge in the capital Maputo on Saturday, believed to link northern and southern Africa. The 2-tower suspension bridge stands 141 meters above Maputo Bay and joins the city center Katembe district. President Nyusi said the bridge would help promote tourism. It will also be a road link from the capital to the border of neighboring South Africa for the first time. He described China, whose Road and Bridge Corporation began construction 4 years ago, as a brother and friend of Mozambique. 95% of the cost of the bridge was financed through loans provided by Chinese lenders.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News, the news around the world. The most destructive wildfires in California's history have killed at least 31 people and forced tens of thousands more to evacuate as firefighters struggle to gain control amid swirling winds. Mark Gilarducci, director of California's Office of Emergency Services, says it could take another 5 days before firefighters put out Husley and the rest of the month to extinguish the campfire. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, or CAL FIRE, said. Meanwhile, 149,000 people remain evacuated. The blazes have now spread to more than 196,000 acres and threaten to destroy tens of thousands of structures. According to CAL FIRE, about 228 people remain unaccounted for in the vicinity of the northern blaze.
Due to the destruction that we are seeing is really, again, unbelievable and heartbreaking, and our hearts go out to everybody who has been infected by this and impacted. We know that there have been injuries, and we know that there have been loss of life, and we are still accounting for that and working with our local authorities who will, as they get a better handle on the number of fatalities and people impacted, will start to share that information as it gets confirmed.
A U.S. Navy fighter jet operating off the aircraft carrier Ronald Reagan crashed into the sea northeast of the Philippines Monday, but both of its pilots ejected were rescued and were in good condition. It said the FA-18 Hornet had a mechanical problem during routine operations in the Philippine Sea. The Navy said the pilots were immediately plucked from the water by rescue aircraft from the Ronald Reagan brought back to the carrier. It was the second crash involving USS Ronald Reagan in less than a month. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. Israeli forces killed 7 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in a clandestine raid targeting a Hamas commander and air attacks that provided cover for the commanders to escape back into Israel by car. The Israeli incursion and air attacks drew rocket fire from the Hamas-controlled enclave late on Sunday. A senior Hamas official said the Israeli Special Forces team infiltrated an area near the southern city of Khan Yunis in a civilian vehicle. Among those reported killed in the attack was Noor Baraka, a prominent commander of the Al-Qassam Bridges, the armed wing of Hamas. Witnesses said that during the chase, Israeli aircraft fired more than 40 missiles in the area where the incident took place, killing at least 4 other people. Fawzi Bahum, a spokesman for Hamas, denounced what he called a cowardly Israeli attack. Many of Libya's leading factions will meet on Monday in Palermo, southern Italy, to reunite the country's institution and find a new path to elections that a previous French-convened conference failed to achieve. The 2-day conference symbolizes an Italian determination to regain diplomatic responsibility for Libya after the French president Emmanuel Macron convened a surprise summit in Paris in May in a bid to push for Libyan elections on 10th of December. Italian flagged migrant rescue boat defies anti-immigration minister. Supporters of Sri Lanka's fired prime minister and a top election official on Monday challenged in court the president's sacking of parliament, upping the ante in a political crisis that sparked international alarm. President Maithripala Sirisena called snap elections and dissolved the legislation 2 weeks after sacking the prime minister and installing the divisive Mahinda Rajapakse in his place. 3 political parties holding an absolute majority in parliament and an election commission, and one of 3 officials tasked with conducting polls on Monday, asked the Supreme Court to declare the president's action illegal. Commissioner Ratha Jeevan Hall was among 12 petitioners arguing that Sirisena had violated the constitution.
You are watching ANN.
MTN gives 2,000% bonus for reactivating your MTN SIM. That's right. If you haven't used your MTN SIM for 45 days or more, recharge now and get 2,000% bonus. That's right, 2,000% bonus for your first recharge of every month.
Welcome back. This is NN News in Sport. Cup holders Super Falcons of Nigeria will on Wednesday fly into the Ghanaian capital, Accra. before making their way to Cape Coast ahead of the commencement of the 11th Women Africa Cup of Nations finals. 8-time champions Nigeria had Group B of the Continental Showpiece and will contend with the Bayana of South Africa. Chipolo Polo Queens of Zambia and an Equatorial Guinea team restored in the tournament only a few days following a CAF appeal panel ruling. Hosts Ghana, Algeria, Mali and Cameroon will battle things out in Group A in Accra. Remarkable 2018-2019 CAF Confederation Cup qualifiers and the Rangers of Nigeria were paired with the Defense Force of Ethiopia in the preliminary round and will be favourite for the two-legged tie. The draws for the preliminary and first rounds were made last Saturday but only released this weekend because of complications regarding the Moroccan entrance. Enugu did best in the first of 4 Confederation Cup appearances, reaching the 2004 group stage, while Defense have won just 1 of 5 previous ties. That is the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, knafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at CNN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.